One and all present here. Myself, Priyanka Sharma, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, SKIT, welcomes you all in the online FDP of Electrical and Computer Engineering, Applications of Machine Learning and Artificial Intelligence. On the behalf of Department of Computer Science and Engineering, SKIT, today we have amongst us Dr. Basant Agrawal, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, IIIT Kota. Sir will deliver a session on convolutional neural networks today. So all of you are requested to be please stay tuned with us. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me for this talk. However, this talk I already discussed, but I think some of the participants are new. So I hope that the topic which we are planned to discuss today is useful to others. So let me share my screen. Just a second. So my screen is visible?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay. Okay, so what I have decided to discuss today is to talk about convolutional neural network for text classification. And I will also give you an idea of how you can develop any specific, hate speech or sentiment classification problem using Keras framework. So I'll give you the idea that how you can implement a deep neural network algorithm. So my aim of this session is to give you an idea that how you can develop any NLP application, and you can develop that any software, any NLP application, and almost 80 to 90% NLP problem you can solve this with the classification problem, right? So text classification, and mostly in the recent time, convolutional neural network is very useful for text classification problems. So to understand text classification problem, there are some prerequisites. So I'll quickly go through them and then quickly come to the convolutional neural network. So the aim of convolutional neural network is to do classification for given text documents. So first we'll see that what is text classification, what are the representation techniques that is useful for any NLP application. And then we'll discuss different representation techniques like embeddings, continuous bag of words method and skipgraph method. And then I'll show you some hands-on. I mean, that's not, we don't have much time to do that practical session, but I'll demonstrate if the time will be there. I will demonstrate you that pieces of code, and that will surely will motivate you that the implementation part is not a job. So you can easily implement the models, deep learning models, and there is only 8 to 10 lines of code to implement any deep learning model. So that's the objective of this session. So let's start. And the basics of text classification is, I hope you all know that what is text classification. And just I'll quickly recap text classification and basics of neural network, so that we'll be able to understand what is representation techniques and the convolutional neural network. Okay, so what is text classification? Given training data, text documents, and labels associated with that, we have this as an input, and first task is to represent the text. So in the traditional method, what we used to do is we used to take feature vectors and use the feature engineering method like unigrams, bigrams, trigrams, and all. We used to extract those features and then use any machine learning model and then train the model. Once we have the model, you can use a new document and then represent the same document in a same feature vector which you have used for the training the model, and then you can use that model to give the labels to a new document. So this is the typical task that is very useful for that any machine learning problem And I think approximately 10 to 70 to 80% problems can be converted into text classification problem. So that is why it is very important and very popular problem, and that the most of the research and most of the problems are generally converted into text classification. So that's the thing. And I'll show you that this feature vector, which we used to extract manually in the traditionally, but in recent time with the advancements in the deep neural networks, we'll see that this feature extraction part has been automated. So that we'll discuss today. Okay, so this is classification. I hope everyone of us know that given a training document, the objective is to learn in this mapping function. So given the training data and the labels, the objective of the learning model is to learn the mapping that are given a new document, or the given the training documents and the labels. So we want to learn that a given document is having the same that label that is it should be. So that's the task of the classification. So two things we have to be careful about, that we should have labels associated with the training data, and then second thing is that whenever we have a new document, we want to classify the new document into a pre-defined set of classes. So number of classes should be fixed. Okay, so that's the problem. And to solve this problem, traditionally we used to use perceptron. And how perceptron works is given a node that you can consider as a computational unit. Given any input, let's say x1, x2, and x3, what this computational unit do is it will make a weighted sum. And if the weighted sum value is greater than a threshold value, it will return 1. So this is the typical computation method that always we use these computations to learn the model. So what we target is we give for this example, we give 3 inputs, and the objective is the output should be what we want in the training data. So we try to make this mapping input and labels as much as close to that real values. Okay, so real values of the labels. So that's the objective. And that perceptron doesn't work well. The reason is that because the output of the perceptron is either 0 or 1. But whenever we train a neural network or any neural network based model, that perceptron will not work well because the output is 0 or 1. And when we want to tune the model and map the input and output, then we have to make a small changes in the weights. And by making small changes in the weight, we actually flip all the output values. So that makes very hard to train. Okay, so that is why we generally use a sigmoid or other neurons, which has output values in the range of 0 to 1. So this sigmoid neuron, how it works, given these input values x1, x2, x3, we make a weighted sum of this, and we pass this to an activation function that is a sigmoid. So that is why this neuron is called as a sigmoid neuron. So given x1, x2, and x3, what we do is we pass this, make a weighted sum of this, and then pass to an activation function that is your sigmoid function. If it is a sigmoid function, it is called as a sigmoid neuron. You can use any other activation function also. So assuming that you all have some exposure to this kind of neural network, so we quickly come to that neural network. Neural network is basically composed of many sigmoid neurons, and even any deep neural network, that is say convolutional neural network, or that recurrent neural network, LSTM. All these neural networks are composed of these small neurons, and they are connected into layers. Like first layer is your input layer, then hidden layer, then you can have any number of hidden layers, and then output layer. So giving you more idea about how this works, that let's take an example that let's say x1, x2, and x3 have some values. So what we do is we give each weight so for this example, this x1, x2, x3 are 3 inputs, and w1, w3, and w1 and w2 and w3 are 3 weights. So output will be weighted sum of these 3, then passed to an activation function, and that will be your output. Okay, so So this is the way we work, and initially the weights are randomly initialized, and the objective of the training model is to adjust these weights in such a way that when we give input we get the output, desired output. Okay, so for this example, let's say this, so we get that yes, so let's see this, this is an example, and for this example, yeah, so this, for this example, let's say first value, this is your training data, and in the training data the first sample is 1.4, 2.7, 1.9. Given these three values, the label associated with them is 0. So how we train this neural network? We give one first input 1.4, 2.7, 1.9, and we get some output. Okay, so that is how we get the output. I told you that initially the weights will be randomly initialized. We get the weighted sum out, weighted sum, and then pass it to activation function, and we get some output. So at the last layer, we get some output, let's say 0.8, and that is actually it should be 0. So what is the difference? That difference is your error. And based on this error, what we do is we update these weights in such a way that we minimize this error. So this process is called, that back propagation process. So we back propagate the error in the network and update the weights in such a way that given the input and the output, we can map it. So for another example, let's say this is your 6.4, 2.8, this one, and the output is desired output is 1. So and what we get is 0.9. Okay, so the error is now 0.1. Okay, minus 0.1. So what we do is we change the weights and we try to get this error reduced as minimum as possible. Okay, and this is the process by which we train any neural network. So in all, learning in network means adjust the weights in such a way that given the input we get the desired output or we get the minimum error. And to do this, the objective of learning is to change the weights. And to change the weights, what are the methods that we can change the method? That is the main learning. And learning is to change the weights, and there are two methods for this. First is we change the weight, and by increasing it or decreasing it, and by how much amount. Okay, so let's say the weight here is, well, let's say 0.7. Now if I want to change this weight, there are two options. One is I can make it to 0.8, or I can make it to 0.6. Okay, first is I can change it to, let's say, increase or decrease it. And the second thing is how much amount of increase or how much amount of decrease. So if we know these two things, if we get answer of these two questions, we can know that how to change the weights, and that is your learning algorithm. And this learning algorithm is you can use the stochastic gradient descent algorithm, that is that gives you the method to how to know these two method, like two answers, like how much I should change the weights, and I should increase or decrease it. So the whole process is called a backpropagation process, in which what we are doing is basically we are giving input, and at the output layer we are getting output, and then we calculate the error. Based on this error, we backpropagate the error and change the weights. Okay, and how to change the weights, that stochastic gradient descent algorithm will be used. Okay, so ultimately there are two things which everyone should know. That first is learning algorithm. Learning is given by stochastic gradient descent algorithm, and there are a number of learning algorithms. And the only thing is every learning algorithm will tell you how much I should change and whether I should increase or decrease it. So if we know the answers of these two questions, we have a learning algorithm. And there is a misconception that backpropagation is a learning algorithm. Backpropagation is not a learning algorithm, but it is a process by which we use any learning algorithm to train the model. Okay, so backpropagation is to just backpropagate the error in the network and change the weights. How to change the weights, that the learning algorithm will tell us. Okay, so this is thing. So this is your learning algorithm, that gradient descent. And in the gradient descent is we try to minimize the loss, or you can say the cost function or the loss function, the objective function or error function, whatever you say. The method is, main thing is mainly we want to reduce the error at the output layer. Okay, so this is one error. So this is one error cost function, that is mean square error. You can have any other cost function also. Okay, so that is basically a hyperparameter for training a network. Okay, so this is your gradient descent algorithm, in which how to change the weights initially, whatever the weight we have, and this is your learning algorithm, learning rate, and this will give you that how much I should change, like zero point 0.6 to 0.7 or 0.6 to 0.65. So how much I should, how fast I want to learn the network. And the second is your in what direction, like I should increase or decrease it. So this is your cost function, and the gradient of cost function with the weights will give you the direction. So for this example, you can see this is your initial weight, and the objective is to reach to the bottom, and that bottom represents that you have the minimum error. And is this direction will be given by this, that if you have the cost function in the that it means in this direction, so that will, the gradient will give you the direction, and if it is in the direction, that means the weight should be decreased. Okay, so that way you can give the training samples, and one by one you give the data, and then network slowly learns these weights and train these weights, and you make these weights in a stable form. Once the weights are stable, there is no change in the weight, that means your training samples has been used, and there is no like the network has been trained. Okay, so there are two methods, like stochastic gradient descent and normal gradient descent. The difference is simply how you are giving the data. So in stochastic gradient descent, so you basically give all the data into batches, and then train and update the weights. And otherwise, you basically use the whole training data at a time to first to find out the average cost, and then update, and then that process is very slow. So that's the thing. Okay, so this is basically a recap of all the prerequisites that is important to understand any neural network based algorithm. And now in the deep neural network, so the part which is a feature extraction part is automated with the deep neural network, which is a convolutional neural network basically. So a convolutional neural network will see that earlier what we used to extract features with, like unigram, bigram, those features can automatically extracted with convolutional neural network. Okay. So these are, for this example, let's say this is your some sentence, this is an awesome movie. So, and you can have different n-gram method, that is earlier we used to use these feature extraction methods like unigrams, bigrams. We manually extract all the unique words and treat them as a feature and train the model. So that is one method, but now we'll see that word embedding methods is better method for representation of the text. So these are the methods which is like, that unigrams, bigram. Unigrams is all the unique words. Bigram is all the continuous two words can be taken as a bigram. Okay. And trigrams, likewise, you can see that three consecutive words, you can treat them as a trigram. So this is your bag of word model. In bag of word model, what we do is given all the documents. So for this example, we have three documents, D1, D2, and D3. We extract all the unique words. Okay, so vocab. So this is for this unigram model. We extract all the unique words and we represent in a vector, and give if a word is occurring in a document, we assign a value 1, otherwise we assign a 0. Okay, so this is one method of representation, and instead of giving 1 as a representation weight, you can also use TF-IDF. So TF-IDF gives you a weight, how important a word is. On that basis, you assign the weight to a word appearing in a document. Okay, so let's say this cinema, the value is 0.3779. So that is your TF-IDF value. If it is higher, it means that the word is more important for that particular document. So this is one, like this is the method for representation of text. We earlier used to use this method for training the model. Okay. So the purpose of showing this is like you should know that what we used to train the model, like unigram, bigram, TF-IDF, and all these methods. And now all these methods has been replaced with word embeddings and then convolutional method. And that process you'll see that that is very efficient, because in this method there are some major problems. So for example, this dimensionality of the feature will be very high, so in millions, because if you have, let's say, 10,000 documents, so you will have more than 1 million unique words. So dimensionality will be very large, and that way your model will not learn very well. So that is why embedding method is used for the representation, and we'll see that the whole document can be represented in 300, 400 dimensions. Okay. And this is another method for representation of the text, that is your one hot encoding method. And in one hot encoding method, what we do is we represent each word in the vocab. So let's say you have these 5 words in the vocab. So if I want to represent word, let's say cat, using one hot encoding method, how I will represent. So given the whole vocab, for this example, let's say we have a vocab size 5. So the representation of each word will be the dimension of the vocab. Okay, so for this, let's say 5 is your vocab size and the position of that particular word. So let's say the cat is your at the second position. So we'll have 1 at the second position. Apart from this, every value will be 0. So that is your one hot encoding vector, which is very useful for learning the representation in the condensed or dense form. So that is your embedding. Okay, so that we use one hot encoding representation for the training of the model, word-to-vec model, that is to learn the representation, semantic representation of each word. Okay, so if you have any questions so far, please let me know. Okay. So the objective of word embedding or word representation is to learn the representation in such a way that that the words which are semantically similar or semantically very close to each other will have very close representation. So for example, if I want to learn the representation of the words, so representation of apple and that orange and banana will be very close. If you have some semantic similarity or cosine similarity, it will be very close, very close to each other. Very like if you have the two vectors, if you will see them, their values will be very close. And if you'll compare apple with another word, let's say bus, their representation will be very different, and their cosine similarity will be very far. Okay, so this is the objective of our representation technique, that we want to learn the representation of words in such a way that their representation is as close as possible to the words which are semantically close to each other. Okay. And how this vector looks like for example, currency will have some values like this, some values in the range of 1 to -1. And all these values will be automatically learned. I will show you how, using the word-to-vec algorithm. And the property that we want to learn is that the words which are semantically or by meaning close to each other will have very close meaning, very close representation. So for example, finance and banking will have very close, and banking and currency will have slightly far as compared to supply and banking. Okay? So likewise. So word-to-vec embedding algorithm there are two algorithms for learning this representation. And to learn this representation, you can consider, I mean, you should understand these two concepts. First is predicting the word given its context, and second is the reverse of it, that is predicting the context given the word. So the objective of learning, learning this representation or embedding is we want to learn a representation in fixed dimension, and that dimension is called as embedding. So for example, word currency. So if I want to learn the representation of this currency I will have to fix its dimension, that 100 dimension, 200 dimension, or 300 dimension. So that dimension is called your embedding dimension, and you can learn any number of dimensions that you want. But in general, we use 300 dimensions to learn the representation. And how to learn the representation? There are two methods, that is say continuous bag of word and skip gram. And what is your property of this embedding? Property that is important, very important for all the learning algorithm of NLP. That property is, I'm repeating again and again, that the representation of words which are close to each other by meaning will have very close in their representation. Okay, and that representation we can learn with this idea or intuition, and that intuition is predicting the words given in its context. Means that if you have a word, you can learn the representation by the company of the words which it keeps. For example, if we talk about, that let's say this example, so turning into banking crises. So if I want to learn the meaning of banking, so banking is basically, it can be financial bank, or it can be related to river bank and something other. So representation of this word banking, if it is related to finance or it is related to river, it can be learned with the words which are appearing near to them. So that is the idea behind this continuous bag of word and the word to vec, that the word meaning of the word can be learned through the words which are appearing near to this word, the target word. Okay. So the continuous bag of word, the idea is model predicts the current word given the context words. So let's say I want to learn the representation for banking, and that is called as your target word. And how I will learn the representation of this? It will be learned based on the context words, and context words are, for this example, it can be turning into and crisis as. So for this example, we have taken 2 as a context size, context window. And you can have any size. So if you want, you can take more context words into consideration. Okay, so this is the idea, how I want to learn the representation, why I want to learn the representation, because the representation will help you in learning the semantic similarity, like the semantic meaning will be there. Earlier there were no meaning because there were only one value, that TF idea or term frequency value, but now you have a whole vector for a word, and that vector can be used for meaning that has some meaning. Okay. And the second is dimensionality of the feature. Now the feature dimension is only 300. Okay. So going into more detail about how we'll exactly learn the representation, for these 4 words, like for example, turning into crisis as. So all the context words will be represented into their one hot encoding vector. And as we have already discussed, what is one hot encoding vector? We represent this one hot encoding vector, then pass all the context word to a black box. And what is this black box? This black box is your neural network, and then output is your target word. So given these words, input words, context words, we train this neural network, one layer neural network, and at the output layer we learn that target word. Okay, so this is another example. So for the given example, turning into crisis as. So given these one hot vector for these 4 words, the objective is to learn the one hot encoding vector for the banking. So for this one layer neural network, we gave this input. All the words which are in the context word will have one value, and then at the output layer we'll have the position, at the position which is your target word will have one, and in the hidden layer we'll have n number of nodes, and the n will be your dimensions of the embedding. So for example, we have to consider the embedding size as 300. You can consider 200, 300, 400, whatever you want. So that you have to decide in hidden layer. So number of representation or the embedding size, whatever you want to choose, you have to fix the number of hidden layer for this neural network. And once you have that neural network, you have data, training data. You can give your training data, batches of the training data to learn this neural network. And the weights which are connected from input to hidden layer, all these weights are here. And all these weights will be taken as a representation of the word. So for example, let's say I want to learn the representation for good. So the in the vocab, whatever the position it is, so let's say it is at the position I. So ith position of this embedding matrix, which is the weights between input and hidden layers. All these weights will be represented in the matrix, and position of the words in the vocab will give you the vector for that particular word, and that is called as your embedding. Okay? And this embedding surprisingly very good in incorporating the meaning, and that is why it is very popular. Okay. So then skipgram is reverse of it. The only difference is that in the skipgram we have see this is your diagram for the skipgram. In the skipgram, what we have the target word. For this example, we have here that banking as your target word. So target word will be here, and all the context words are like turning into banking crisis as okay, not banking. So that will be your target word. So the only thing is you just give this training data, train the model, and then consider these weights as the representation of words. Once we have these representation of words, the only thing which we care about is that we want to learn that property that words which are semantically similar will have very close to representation, and this will be learned if we have large amount of the data, because once you have large amount of the data, then only you will learn that context information will be useful. Otherwise, what will happen if the occurrence of a word is very less, then this property will not be incorporated. So that is why whenever we want to learn a good representation, we need a good amount of training data for learning the representation. So if you have any doubt so far, please let me know so that we can move further. Then I will explain you how convolutional neural network will work. So far, I hope you get the idea that the main thing is that text classification. To understand text classification, the process is that we understand what is text classification problem. Then if you want to use this neural network based approach to solve this problem, we should understand what is a standard multi-layer neural network, what is backpropagation, what is learning algorithm. And once we understand these, now particularly for the NLP, we should first understand what is the representation technique. There are n number of methods like unigram, bigram, and trigram. And using TF-IDF for term frequency, you can represent each word of a document into a vector, and then you can use those vectors for the classification. But now what we are doing that gives a better performance is instead of using that traditional method for unigram and TF-IDF method for representation, we use embedding method. And how we train the embedding method? Embedding method is there are two methods, but one is SIBO and another is skipgram. You can use this algorithm to learn the representation, and that representation will have some meaning in it. And that is why this gives you better performance for NLP problems. So this is the summary of whatever we have discussed so far. Now next I will tell you that how this if we learn this word-to-word representation well, you can use convolutional neural network for classification. And there is one prerequisite for a good performance of your convolutional neural network is your embedding should be good. If you have good representation, then your CNN will work well. I have seen many people say that for this problem, my CNN algorithm is not working well. And the reason is because you don't have good representation, or you don't have good training data. Because sufficient training data is very important to train the model or to learn the representation. And the reason is because the context word which we are using to learn the context information or context information to learn the meaning, And for that we need sufficient occurrence of a word in particular context words. Okay, so इसलिए and that is the main reason that we need large amount of data for learning the representation in deep learning models. Okay. Still, if you have any doubt, please let me know. Now, next plan is like I will explain you convolutional neural network, the process, and then I will show you with example that why convolutional neural network works. I mean, with an example, what is the intuition behind convolutional neural network, and why this, with the help of word embedding, why it will learn unigram, bigram, all those kind of features automatically. So please let me know if you have any doubts so far. Otherwise, I will move further. Okay, so what is convolutional neural network? Convolutional neural network is a automatic feature extraction method for NLP. We'll see how it will work. To understand convolutional neural network, let's first understand what is convolution process. And to understand this, let's take an example of 2D convolution, and then we'll understand what is 1D. In text classification problem, we use a one-dimensional convolution. Okay, so let's first understand what is convolution and how to proceed with this. So let's say we have input matrix of size 3 cross 4. And for this input matrix, so it can be your image or any input matrix which has, let's say, a dimension of 3 cross 4. And this is your kernel. Kernel, you can have any dimensions, let's say 2 cross 2 or 3 cross 3, any square matrix you can have for your kernel. We also call it as a feature map or feature filter. Okay, kernel, feature map, all are for the same thing. And these are basically the features which will be automatically learned. Okay, and this is your input. So given this input of dimension 3 cross 4, let's say we have one feature or one filter or one kernel of dimension 2 cross 2. What we do is we put this 2 cross 2 kernel over this input matrix at this position like this. And then whatever the value is there, let's say A, B, E, F, and whatever the value here will do the weighted sum. So as we have seen in the first slide, I mean initial slides, that how this simple neuron, that is your sigmoid neuron, will do is that will do the weighted sum, and then the weighted sum will be passed to an activation function, and it will pass to the next connected nodes. So same thing will be done here, but the only thing is the connections are different. So here, if you consider this one connection, so you just see this. This is your one filter. We place this over this input image, and then we calculate the weighted sum, and then this is your weighted sum, and then we pass it to an activation function and to the next node. So the same thing we are doing here. And the convolution process is that when you place this at this position, we use the same kernel and move it to the next position, and we get another value. So this is your another value. We do the same thing, and then the same thing, and then we move the kernel to the right side, one position right. One position means that stride length is 1. You can move it to 2 position at a time. So depending upon the training data and your problem, you can try different stride length. So all these things are called hyperparameters. So depending upon your problem, you have to hypertune these parameters. So first is that this kernel size, you can use 2 cross 2, 3 cross 3, whatever. So that is your one hyperparameter. And if you are moving this kernel over this input matrix, or convolving this kernel matrix over the input matrix, you can move this kernel 1 position or 2 position at a time. So that is another hyperparameter. Okay, and you get one output. So this is the process. How convolution process is: you convol this convol this kernel or filter over this input matrix, and you move this kernel, get the values, and you move this matrix over the input matrix in two dimensions. That is your one left to right and top to bottom. If you are moving this kernel over this input matrix in two dimension, left to right and top to down, that means you are using two-dimensional convolutional process. Okay. And if you are using in one dimension, that is your one dimensional. Okay. So this is your convolution, two-dimensional convolutional neural network, and then this is your same thing. You can see that in the yellow, this 1 0 1, this is your values for the kernel, 3 cross 3 kernel, and if you are move this over this input matrix, you get some values. So these values which you are getting after convolving this input matrix, or sorry, kernel over this input matrix, you get convolve output. So this is your convolution process, and all these filters which you are convolving over the input matrix, your filter or kernel, and that has the weights which we train or update during the training process. And what is one-dimensional convolution process? In the one-dimensional convolution process, we particularly what we do is we first represent all the text, and basically will move this kernel or your filter in one dimension, that is your top to bottom. Okay. So what is the process we do in NLP? First thing is we represent each word with their embedding. Embedding we have already discussed that it is a fixed dimension vector. That for this example we are taking 5, but in general it can be 100, 200, 300. So whatever the dimension you decide, you can use. And for this example, we are taking embedding size as 5, and all the input sentences or words will be represented in a embedding dimension. So for this example, 5. So the dimension of the kernel will be n cross 5, because we want to convol the filter over the complete embedding or over complete word. Okay? So for this example, I have taken n as 2. So this dimension of this kernel is your 2 cross 5. Okay. So I will put this this filter or this kernel over this input matrix like this, and the same way what I will get is I will do the weighted sum and then pass to an activation function and will get the some value. So this is the first position, and I can move this to the second position, and then I get another value. Okay, so I will put this over this, and then I get another value, that is, let's say 0.53. Okay. So this way, what I'm doing is I am convolving this kernel over the input matrix and moving this matrix one by one. So stride length I'm considering 1. In general, we use stride length as 1, and this convolution matrix, the dimension of this matrix is 2 cross 5. So I can use any 1 cross 5, 3 cross 5, anything. So what it means, if I'm using 2 cross 5, it means I am convolving this input matrix over the representation of two words, that is I like. So basically what I'm doing is I am using this 2 cross 5 kernel. It means I am somehow learning a bigram. So if you remember that feature extraction part, automatically we are learning a bigram. It is I like, when I convol this over the next position, it is like this, and then this movie, and then this movie, very much and much exclamation. So what happens is whenever we have decided to learn this one filter, so consider this as one bigram, and I'm trying to learn one bigram over this process, then what will happen is I'm getting some values out of it, and that automatically what will happen is that I will show you why, but at the moment just keep in mind that the value, let's say this is one bigram feature, and this will have automatically high value, let's say movie vary, so let's say this value will automatically will be very high, let's say 0.9. So you automatically learn that feature or bigram feature which is more important. So for this n possible values, let's say I like this movie, out of this is one bigram feature, it will have automatically will have very high value corresponding to the bigram which has which is more important. Okay, so this way what you can do is you can decide. Now this is a hyperparameter again. So this hyperparameter, what is the hyperparameter? That how many features I want to learn. Okay, how many unigram, bigram, trigram I want to learn. So that I have to decide. Once I have decided that, it will automatically learn those features. So earlier what we were doing is, let's say we decided to take unigrams. So what we are doing is we were doing we were extracting all the unique words. We are taking those features as a representation. So we used millions of features, but now what we can do is you can learn those representation with let's say 100, 200, 300, 500. You can decide that how many features and what kind of features you want, and that automatically it will learn important bigrams, important trigrams, and important unigrams, and important fourgrams, n-gram, important n-gram features automatically. And why it will extract only important features, that I will show you with an example. But at the moment you understand the process. What we are doing is, if you want to learn the unigram, then you have to decide that, okay, so dimension of the kernel will be 1 cross 5. So that concept you should understand. Why 1 cross 5? Because if it is a 1 cross 5 dimension vector, it means you will convol over one word at a time. So if this word I, then like, and corresponding to that particular filter, it will have very high value, which is more important for this text classification. Over time with training, it will automatically learn that high weight for a particular. Okay, I'm sorry, thoda sa important. Anyway, so the objective is, am I audible now? So if we want to learn unigrams, that it means we should understand that we will use 1 cross 5 as your dimension for the kernel. And let's say if you want to learn 100 dimensions, sorry, 100 unigrams, then you will use such 1 cross 5, such 100 filters. Okay? So this is the same thing with another example. You consider that all these words are there, and each word is represented with your word embedding size. And if this is your filter, this is your 3 cross n size dimensional filter. So let's say the embedding dimension is n, then you can place this over this input matrix, and then you will get some values. And automatically with the training, you'll see that the trigram which is important for this example trigram, so the trigram which is more important will have very high value. I will show you why, and then I'll also show you what is the intuition behind this that we'll use. And that is why whenever we get n values for this, we get only maximum value, and we use max pooling process. That max pooling process will is to take the highest value, and we ignore all these values because those values are not very important. Okay. So this is a standard convolution process, convolutional neural network process, in which what we are doing is, this is given sentence, we present each word with the dimension, that is your embedding dimensions with the embedding dimension, and then we have filters of different dimensions. And this red color is showing that I am learning a bigram, because this dimension is 2 cross n. Okay, and this yellow is your trigram. So what we are basically doing is, we are learning different multiple filters and features. Okay, so red is showing you bigram. So this is your bigrams. If you move this, you will get some values, and then out of these values you get one maximum value, which I told you that for bigram, if you learn one feature, means you learn one important bigram. So likewise, you are learning, this is your trigram, so you are learning one trigram here, one bigram. So ultimately there are 4 features for this example of different weights and lengths. You are learning 4 different features, and now you are representing the sentence in 4 feature dimension, and that you can learn for any machine learning algorithm you can use afterwards. So automatically convolution process is basically you are using that for automatically learning the features which are more important, more semantically rich, and useful. Okay, so this is the process. Here you have to keep in mind 2 things. First is how many features you want to learn, unigram, bigram, trigram. Accordingly you have to decide that these are the hyperparameters that you have to decide that I want to learn 200, 300 and 400 unigram, bigram, trigram, or whatever combination you want. And that is the research which you basically do for a particular problem. So let's say if it is a hate speech problem, or if it is a sentiment classification problem, so the objective of the researcher is to identify which combination of hyperparameters is doing well for the particular data and for particular problem. And that is, you can see that by changing the different combination of hyperparameter, you get different results, and that you can represent those results with your research paper. And then again, you can always change your network architecture also. So here it is only single layer convolution. You can after output of this convolution process, you can again use another convolution process. I'll show you in the code that you can use multiple convolution process, but ultimately the process will be same. Instead of doing this max pooling at this layer, you can pass this convolve values to another convolution process. Now, I hope every one of us understand what is the process, how convolution neural network process works. Now, I'll show you this with this example that what is the intuition behind this convolution neural network, and why good and word representation will learn a common and important feature, only important feature, not all the unigrams or bigrams which traditionally method were doing. Okay. So to understand that, let's understand this with this example. I am feeling alone. And there is another sentence in the another document. Another sentence in the another document that I feel lonely. So for this example, if we are assuming that the representation, word embedding representation are learned very well, and the objective of the word embedding is that the words which are semantically similar. So for this example, let's say feeling and feel, these are very similar, there are only difference in the tense. So these words will have very close representation. So if you'll see that I have taken this example in such a way that words which are semantically similar, then it means their word embeddings are very close to each other. It means this and this are very close. And likewise, alone and lonely is will also have very close representation. So given this representation, good representation technique, I mean representation embedding, your convolutional neural network will automatically learn this feature, one important feature that will be useful for both kind of situations. So given this, So, so for this example, let's say this is a representation of I, it's a representation of M, and so on. And this is your convolution filter. And this convolution filter, when I will convolve over this, so if you'll see this, we get some value. When we'll convolve this over this position, we'll get another value. And when I will convolve this over this value, I will get another value. And you'll see this, that for this example, it will automatically will give you a high value 9.94 for the feature which is more important. For bigram which is more important, like I am and M filling and filling alone, this filling alone is very important for feature. And for this particular convolution filter, it will give you very high value. Why this will give you a high value? Because with training, these weights, the convolution features are basically having weights, and these weights will be updated in such a way that it will represent the very close representation for this concept. So see this another example, I feel lonely, because this feel is also having some values very close to feeling, and lonely very close representation as alone. And when this will be convolved over this, it will also give you a high value. So ultimately, this convolution filter, which you have learned during training, it is basically having a bigram which is giving you high values for features which are occurring in text in different forms, like feeling alone, feel lonely, feel alone, feeling lonely. So any combination of this general word, this filter will give you very high value, or and automatically it will learn that particular filter or feature from the text. And earlier what we were doing is we were having different features. Feeling alone is different, feel lonely is different, feel lonely is different, feel alone is different. All these features were taking differently, and that is why the dimensionality of features were very large. But now a simple diagram is learning all combination of, basically it is learning a common concept for a feature. And that is why with very less number of features, we can learn very good representation, and that gives you better performance. And another thing is the prerequisite is that we are assuming that word embeddings are having very close representation, and that is one of the reason that you use CNN for some application, and you see that CNN is not giving good performance. And the reason is that word embedding are not good. And for the word embedding, good word embedding representation, you can learn with word to vec, and for that you need some good amount of training data. So the best thing is you use an unsupervised method for learning the good word embedding, and then use CNN. So if you have good representation, CNN will give you good performance. And another prerequisite, or you can say the criteria that CNN will work well is it is able to extract only unigrams, automatic unigrams. So if a feature is important which is occurring far in a sentence, CNN will not work. For that purpose, we use RNN and LSTMs. Okay. So given the text where you have good representation of the words, and your text is in such a way that the most of the important information is in the unigrams, bigrams, trigrams, and basically occurring in close your that context. So in that situation, CNN will work very well with very fast performance with very less features. Okay. So let's take another example. Let's say this is your cat sitting there and dog sitting there. So this convolution feature, which will automatically be learned in such a way that will give you high activation value for the concept, which is animal sitting, cat sitting, dog sitting, because cat and dog will have very close representation, and any other dog, it will have very close representation in the word to vec embedding space. And that is why it will always give you very good or very high representation value, or sorry, activation value for all these combination of words. Okay. So this is the concept of your convolutional neural network. And let me know if you have any doubt. We can discuss more in that. If not, then I will show you more intuition that how, because see, our mind is basically acquainted with the traditional neural network, like input layer, output layer, and all. So I will show you how you can represent this word to CNN algorithm in a layering, like input layer, output layer, and all. So this is a simple multi-layer neural network. If you have a single, that hidden layer and all. So let me know if you have any doubt. Otherwise, I'll show you this with another examples, and then I'll represent this convolution neural network in your fully connected one layering connected network form. Okay. So this is another example. For this example, for the words giver, let's say dimension of the embedding is 5. You can have different dimensions of the filters. So for this is your 4 grams. So you are learning 4 grams, 4 grams, 2 trigrams, 2 unigrams. You get different output values. You apply max pooling process and you get features. So ultimately you are getting 6 features, and you can use these 6 features for training the model. So in the output layer, you can use any softmax, any fully connected neural network, or the SVM, or any neural network you can use. Okay. So now giving you better intuition how this CNN looks like in a fully connected or layering architecture, and that will give you a more relevance to the neural multi-layer neural network. So given this input sentence, God is well, another example in which I'm taking 3 words as input, and I'm taking three dimensions for their representation. And if I have one filter of dimension 2 cross 3, so it means I'm having this is one bigram, this is another bigram. So let's say we have 2 bigrams. So for this example, let's say if I want to learn 2 bigrams, how this network will look like for this input matrix. So input is your weight matrix, which is all these combinations. So for this example, 9 nodes will be there. So in the input layer, so 9 nodes are there. And for the first connection, this is your first bigram. So assume this, let's say we want to learn 2 filters. So it means 2 features. So it means 2 nodes will be there into the next hidden node. So for this example, 10 and 11, and 12 and 13 is for another bigram. Okay, another feature. So for first bigram, so let's say we'll have 4 convolutions for values, so 4 nodes. Or for this example, we have 2 convolution values for each bigram, so or for each filter. So this for feature 1 or filter 1, we'll have 2 values. One is for this and another is for this. So the 10th is representing the node which is placed at the first position of the input matrix, and the connections are like, you can see this, like if this is placed at this position, it means you can carefully see that it is connected to only these 6 nodes, 1 to 6. These are not connected to the first convolution process. So you have this, as we have discussed, it will be having like convolution process, it will be weighted sum and then passed to an activation function that will be the output of this particular process. Okay, so this is your convolve value. And likewise, if you move this, so now this 11 is the second position, and now it is connected to is and well. So this is your is and well. So it is connected like with this wells. And now there are 2 important concepts which we have to carefully see, that one is shared weights and another is sparse connections. You can see that sparse connection means not all the input layer is not fully connected with the next layer. So for this example, let's say 9 nodes are in the input and 4 nodes in the next hidden layer. Not all nodes are fully connected. So that is sparse connections. This is called sparse connections. And second is shared weights. Shared weight means when you are having this one filter at the first position, you are only connected 1 to 6 nodes, and the weights are 1 to 6. And the same weights will be there when you will convolve this feature on to second position, and then these 4 to 9 nodes are connected to 11 node. You will have the same weights. And this shared weights is very important because this is to learn a feature, like for example, feeling alone and feel lonely. If it is occurring anywhere in the text, it will be only learned if you have shared weights. If you will not have the shared weights, then you'll not be able to learn a feature, a common feature which is appearing anywhere in the text. What will happen if feeling alone, if you'll have different weights for each of these combination, then what will happen? That if the word is appearing in the starting or the first two words, then only it will learn. And likewise, if you compare it with the image processing task, then convolution process, convolution filter, it is very popular. This process is popular because cat appearing in text anywhere in the text, or sorry, image, that filter will automatically identify, and that is done only through shared weights. And if you not have the shared weights, then it is not possible to identify a concept appearing anywhere in the text or image filter which is appearing anywhere in the image. So that is why shared weights are important. And how we are sharing the weights, that you can see that that filter which is convolving over the text and any number of times depending upon the filter size, the weights are shared. Okay, so this is the concept. And now you get v1 and v2 value, and now out of this v1 and v2, you know that this is out of these two value, you basically take one. So max pooling process. That's okay. So this is it with this convolution process. Now we'll just recap everything, wind up everything, and then I will quickly show you, demonstrate you that code, lines of code, which is for implementing the convolution neural network, and then we'll done with the purpose. So CNN, you can see that this, if it is fully connected layers, and if there are some shared weights, so we have already shown you in this form fully connected layer. So I hope that you already get this idea that sparse connection has shared weights. So convolution process, I already discussed you that it will learn local region features like words appearing close to each other like unigrams, bigrams, trigrams, fourgrams, but it will not be able to learn the features which are appearing in a sentence which is for, I mean, a word which is appearing in the first word of the sentence and last word of the sentence. So if there is some important connection with that, CNN will not be able to handle. And another thing is translation invariance. We have already seen that with the help of shared weight concept, the word appearing anywhere in the text, you can learn that feature. And another is reduced number of free parameter, that fully connected layer will give you, you know, that large parameters and large number of weights that has to be trained. So that is the problem with the fully connected layer, but CNN will help in that. So yeah, so that's it. I think I will quickly give you some hints on future research problems that you can try. Because in the recent time, and CNN is good. We know, all of us know that CNN is good for sufficient, given the sufficient training data. But there are some methods which has been advanced in recent time, that one-shot learning, and how basically you can train your model with less training data. So that is the main that research problem where you can work on. And one method is how to initialize the weights, because if you have good method for initialization of the weights, you can train your model with less training data. So one method is you can use pre-trained embedding methods like Google has given, and Glow and others. There are a number of pre-trained embedding values are given. You can use them, or you can train your own. Depending upon the training data available, you can decide on that. And if you can devise another method for initialization of the weights instead of randomly initializing, so that can be your good contribution into the research community. And there are other methods like I told you just now, like a few short learning, one short learning, and them given the small training set, you can learn the network, that how to do that you can explore, and you can find out your own methods. Okay, so these are the hyperparameters that you can that change, and I hope you all know about this. Okay, so I'll just show you different activation functions, different optimizers. So we have discussed this stochastic gradient descent. There are n number of other optimizers or learning algorithms, and basically you have activation function as the hyperparameter, loss functions, optimizers, learning rate, epochs, batch sizes. All these are your hyperparameters which you generally hyper tune during building your model. And overfitting and dropout, I'm not discussing it because we don't have much time, but for the time being I can give you an idea that overfitting is to that if you are training data, like training data is such a way that you overtrain the model. Overtrain means that data is overfitted for that particular, if your data training data is having some samples, so your data has learned so much that it is only being able to identify those training samples only. So for it is not generalized, and your model is not giving correct answer for a new unseen general sample. So to avoid that overfitting, you generally drop out some of the weights randomly, and then you can do avoid that kind of overfitting. Okay, so so this is with these hyperparameters, and please let me know if you have any doubt. Otherwise, I'll quickly demonstrate you some code for implementing the CNN with the Keras in the Keras. If not, then I'll just so there are some more things like graph convolution neural network you can explore, attention mechanism. I hope you already know about that. Okay, to implement a convolution neural network, my plan is to demonstrate different architecture. If you want to implement this CNN architecture, there is very easy lines of code. Am I audible?
Sir, your voice is breaking.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible now.
Acha, acha, acha. So this is one architecture that we want to see how it can be implemented with Keras. Then I will show you that the simple to implement that, it is a very small lines of codes. You can see on the screen that to implement that architecture which we discussed, it is having very few 7 to 8 lines of code. And if you have Keras setup implemented, then you can implement that architecture, and then further you can also change in the architecture. Let's say if you want to add one more convolution process after one first convolution, so you can stack n number of convolution processes one by one, and then there is nothing to change in the code, so it's very easy. Okay, so and then if you have different combinations of unigram, bigram, and trigram, you want to incorporate that different combinations of features, then how to do that, will see that it is very easy to do that. Okay, so I think I will be able to give some idea that how this code looks like. And then if you are interested, you can explore. It is very easy. So the objective to show or to demonstrate the code is to motivate you that the implementation of CNN or any deep learning algorithm in Keras is very easy task, and if you are interested, you can explore, and then you can implement yourself. So there is nothing to fear that you cannot do that. So the first thing is like we import the libraries, and libraries are basically your Keras library, which we'll use for implementing all the deep learning methods and pre-processing the text, and then Panda and NumPy is to read the files and the processing of the input data. So this is, let's say this is your training data, which I have taken with like for example, I am taking it for hate speech problem. So I don't have that time to run this code, but I have taken play pasted it on this slide, so you can get the idea quickly. So okay, so this is the first thing which we have to do, that is your pre-processing the data. So given the data, you can fix the dimensions for the vocab. You can make it anything, like for your vocab document or vocab size, like how many words you have in your training. So let's say we have 20,000, then tokenize here, then you have to convert that words into sequences, and then you have to do this important task, that is your pad synthesis, because in CNN we have to convert all the documents into a common length. So we have decided to fix the length, that is 25. This is up to you how much length you want to fix for your training data. All the documents should be of same length. So for this example, 25 is your length for the document. So if your document is less than 25, then it means that you have to pad the sentences. Okay, with zeros. Okay, so once you have data, you will tokenize them, you will convert into a sequence. Sequence means that every document or every document should be converted into numbers, and for that we use that sequence means the position of the word occurring in that particular vocab, and then we pad the sentences, and that each sentence will be converted with padded and position of the words. And once we have that, we'll use that embedding for representation of the text. So okay, so that way this is the only pre-processing I'm doing at the moment. You can pre-process the text to remove stop word, stemming and all, depending upon your problem, but it is up to you if you want. If it is, but this algorithm can work basically on raw text also. So if you want to pre-process, then it is good. If you don't want, it is also fine. And then I'm dividing the data in training and testing. Okay, and then printing the shape. This is the very simple model. If this is your sequential model, because all the layers which we want is sequentially stacked onto one another, and the first layer is your embedding layer, which we have seen that in the first layer is your embedding dimension. All the words will be represented with the embedding dimensions. So here I'm taking your 100 as a dimensions. This is your vocab size, and this is your the length which you have fixed for your each document. So the input for your document for your model will be 100 dimensions. So if you'll see this example, so this is your document. So each document will be represented with 25 words, and if their word length is less than 25, then there will be zeros. Okay, and this is your dimension is 100 for this example. And then there is another next layer is convolution layer. Here you have to specify how many features you want to learn. Here if I'm saying filters 200, it means that I want to learn 200 features. How, I mean, what is the dimension of the features? Let's say kernel size is 3, it means I want diagram. If I make 2, it means I want to learn bigram. If I make it 1, it is unigram. And likewise, whatever you want, you can use for learning those features. Okay, kernel size means filter size or kernel size or feature map, that's same thing. And the dimension 3 means automatically the dimension of it will be 3 cross 100, because we have seen that the dimension is it will be a matrix of 3 cross embedding size. So embedding size we have already specified, so it will automatically take 100. Yes, and then stride is 1, and activation function you can decide or whatever. And then next is max pooling layer, and then dense, and then all. I hope you get this idea that you can easily stack one layer one by one in using this Keras layer, and you just add with the model and you can see. Okay, in the last layer, I just want to get the output that it is hate speech or not hate speech. So that is why output layer I want to one node, and this is your sigmoid function. It will give you the probability more than 0.5 for if it is a hate speech, or it is if it is not, then it will give you very low value near to 0. And accordingly, then I have this compile function, and that you can compile your model with the loss, optimizer, and metrics. You give these parameters, you can change the loss function, and depending upon your problem, you can change the loss functions, and you can see which loss function is doing good for your problem. Optimizer, same thing, you can use Adam, GD, and there are n number of optimizers possible. You can try different algorithms or different optimizers for your problem, and you can see that which optimizer is doing good for your problem, and that's it. So finally you just fit the model, and that's it. So this is the thing which you can use for implementing a CNN. And if you want to change in this that architecture, you can directly just put this 2 times here, one by one, just copy it here just before this max pool. You can basically make another CNN over the CNN, so you can use your 2 CNNs one by one. So depending upon your problem, you can change your architecture, and then you can change your parameters, and you can obtain the output values. Okay, so I think I have completed my time, but I quickly show you this. But this is okay. This is the same thing which we have shown, that this representing or implementing thing, but it is also very simple. This is input method. Earlier we have seen sequential method, and this is your functional API based method, in which if you want more than one input, I mean, your architecture is such a way that it is not sequential, just like this. So this is not sequential, it is like parallel. So if you have one different kind of features, and parallel you want to learn different kind of features, and parallel you want to learn different kind of features. So for those kind of implementation, you have to just put input and output for each layer indifferently, and that way you can train the models. Okay, so this is convolution for first layer, and then convolution max pool to second layer, and all. But anyway, it is not possible to explain everything in 5 to 10 minutes. But the objective of showing or demonstrating this code is that to understand and learn. And if you have any doubt and problem, you can always mail me on this email ID, and you can ask me if you have any doubt. So with this, I think I should stop now. And if you have any doubt and questions, you can ask. Priyanka ma'am?
Yes, sir.
So with this, I have completed. So I think if anyone has any doubt, then
Okay. Participants, if you have any doubt, you can post your queries in question and answer section. I think there is no query, sir.
okay.
Thank you so much, sir, for delivering this useful session with all other participants. Thank you so much, sir.
There is one question actually I have received in this.
Okay.
How to write research paper in this subject? For writing research paper, research paper related to deep learning and all, I'll suggest you that pick a good application. First is pick a good NLP application with skill. आपका म्यूट कर लीजिए थोड़ा, 1 मिनट के लिए.
Sure, sir.
So to write a research paper on CNN or any deep learning algorithm, the basic first paper can be identify a good problem. For example, hate speech we have seen. So you just see or any innovative problem or any different situation. So for example, hate speech for a particular country or particular situation, or like bot detection. So first thing is you identify a good problem. Once you have the problem, how to write a research problem using CNN is you take that text, learn a good, use any word embedding method, train them, use them, and then in the CNN, change the hyperparameters. So we have seen that changing the activation function, loss function, changing the features, and changing the architecture will give different results. So for writing a research paper, you just take CNN, the code which we have seen. I can also share it with you. You run that code, this code, it is directly implementable. Just run them on different problems, and then see the results for different by changing the different hyperparameters and plot them. And all these plots and comparison of the different hyperparameter will give you a basic paper, not a good paper, good journal, but a scope kind of a paper you can easily get with this kind of architecture. I mean, if with this kind of implementation, because in general you have to be very innovative, more innovative in terms of initializing the weights, or in the terms of architecture, or some kind of hybrid method and all. But you can easily write a good paper, and that you can do with the help of like for example, see, I give you an idea. See, CNN in the last layer you can change the, instead of fully connected layer, you change that SVM, or you can change the random forest or other algorithms. You get this hybrid model. Somehow you have to be, that for a given problem, change the architecture, change the hyperparameters, visualize them. The objective of the research paper will be that I should know that for this problem, if I implement CNN, different combination of CNN, different parameters, what will be the output value. And I'm sure if you will change these hyperparameters, if you change, like that in the last layer use the standard machine learning like SVM, use large number of features like unigram, 1000 unigram, 2000 unigrams, bigrams, trigrams, and take prepare 1000 features with the CNN, and then use SVM. So that way you basically get a good output. I mean, I'm not sure, but for a given problem, you can get different architectures. You can think of different models, and then you can experiment by changing. And it is very easy. The best part is it is very easy. You can do it in 1 month. If you understand whatever we have discussed of today, you can do everything which I just said in 1 month, because it is very easy to implement, and you have to just be creative in thinking different architectures, and then you have to just see the changes when you'll change the parameters, and you'll get the output, and that is publishable. Okay, so that is the thing which is a good start. And once you have this, then you can think of incorporating LSTM and other models and other things. But I think that if you know that, I think you already understand what I'm saying. Like if you can read a lot of research papers, that is how these are hybriding, and they are like I just mentioned that few short learning and one short learning. There are different problems that you can focus on, but for the start, I'll suggest you just try a simple architecture, CNN architecture, and then see the different combination of them, and then see the results, and then use different graphs for the visualizations, different tables for, because see that a lot of combinations can be there. Just place them in a tables, and it will look a good paper, good research paper for a Scopus journal. Or if you are slightly more innovative, that can go into a essay journal also. Okay, so there are some more question things. I have a application, but don't know how to code in deep learning, how to start. So that's it's very easy. I will share this code, and if you write in the Google, because I have seen in recent time a lot of good blogs are there. You just write, I want to implement CNN for text caching, you will get a number of things. So I think that's not a problem. You can start, and if you have any problem, you somewhere, just feel free to ask me. There is email ID is on the screen. And sir, yes, PPT I'll share you. Don't worry, because this actually the PPTs are not taken. I mean, created by wholly by myself. I have taken a lot of images and all, everything from the internet, and I can share it with you. And cooperation, I am open to